Officer Marcus Rivera sat in his police car on the side of Highway 101. It was almost midnight. The road was quiet except for a few cars driving by. Marcus had been a police officer for 8 years. He liked working the night shift. It was usually peaceful, and he could think clearly in the darkness. Marcus checked his watch. Only 3 more hours until his shift ended. He was looking forward to going home to his wife and 2 young children. His daughter had a soccer game tomorrow, and he promised to be there. Suddenly, a dark blue sedan rushed past him. The car was going much too fast. Marcus looked at his radar gun. The car was going 75 miles per hour. The speed limit was 55. Marcus turned on his police lights and started following the car. The sedan did not slow down right away. Marcus turned on his siren. Finally, the car pulled over to the side of the road. Marcus parked behind it and called in the license plate number to dispatch. Unit 247 to dispatch. I have a traffic stop on Highway 101, mile marker 15. License plate number is David Charlie Henry 891. Copy that, Unit 247. We show the vehicle is registered to David Chen, age 32. No warrants showing at this time. Marcus got out of his car and walked toward the sedan. He kept his hand near his radio. Even simple traffic stops could become dangerous. He had learned this lesson many times during his 8 years on the force. As Marcus got closer to the driver's window, he could see a man sitting inside. The man had his hands on the steering wheel, which was good. Marcus knocked on the window with his flashlight. The window rolled down slowly. Inside sat a young Asian man wearing a nice suit. His tie was loose and his hair looked messy. The man appeared nervous. His hands were shaking slightly on the steering wheel. "Good evening, sir," Marcus said in a calm voice. "I'm Officer Rivera. Do you know why I stopped you tonight?" The man looked up at Marcus with wide eyes. I was speeding, wasn't I?" he said. His voice sounded stressed. "Yes, sir. I clocked you at 75 in a 55 zone. That's 20 miles over the speed limit. Can I see your driver's license, registration, and insurance, please?" The man reached toward his glove compartment but stopped. "Can I reach for my documents?" he asked. "Yes, sir. Please move slowly," Marcus replied. He appreciated when people asked permission. It showed they understood police procedures. The man opened the glove compartment and pulled out some papers. Then he reached for his wallet. His hands were still shaking. Marcus noticed the man smelled like alcohol, but it was not very strong. Maybe he had 1 or 2 drinks. The man handed Marcus his license. Marcus looked at it with his flashlight. The name read David Chen, and the address was in the city about 30 miles away. Marcus noticed there were several small holes punched in the license. This meant David had received multiple traffic tickets before. "Mr. Chen, where are you coming from tonight?" Marcus asked. David looked confused for a moment. I was at dinner. A work dinner downtown. "And where are you headed?" "Home. I'm going home." David's answer came quickly, but something seemed off about it. Marcus looked at the license again. David's home address was in the opposite direction from where he was driving. "Sir, your license shows you live on Oak Street. That's back toward the city. You're driving away from your home." David's face turned red. "Oh, I was going to my mother's house first. She lives out this way." Marcus made a note in his mind. David's story was changing. First he said he was going home. Now he said he was going to his mother's house. This was a red flag. "Have you been drinking tonight, Mr. Chen?" Marcus asked. "Just a little. I had some wine with dinner. But I'm fine to drive. Really, I am." David's voice was getting higher and more nervous. Marcus could smell the alcohol more clearly now. It was not overwhelming, but it was definitely there. Combined with the speeding, the changing story, and David's nervous behavior, Marcus became more concerned. "Mr. Chen, I need you to step out of the vehicle, please." "What? Why?" "I told you I'm fine." David's voice became louder and more upset. "Sir, I need you to step out of the car. I want to make sure you're safe to drive." "This is ridiculous. I wasn't even drinking that much. I have somewhere important to be. Can't you just give me a ticket and let me go?" Marcus stayed calm. He had dealt with many drunk drivers who became angry when caught. "Mr. Chen, please step out of the vehicle. If you refuse, I will have to arrest you." David gripped the steering wheel tighter. "You don't understand. I really need to get somewhere. It's an emergency." "What kind of emergency, sir?" David hesitated. It's family business. Personal stuff. Please, officer, I'm begging you." Just let me go this time. Marcus had heard this excuse many times before. People always claimed to have emergencies when they were caught drinking and driving. He could not let someone drive drunk, no matter what excuse they gave. Too many innocent people died because officers believed sob stories. Mr. Chen, I'm going to ask you one more time to step out of the vehicle. If you don't, I will call for backup and remove you from the car. David stared at Marcus for a long moment. His eyes looked desperate. This is going to ruin everything, he said quietly. Sir, the only thing that will ruin everything is if you hurt someone by driving under the influence. Please step out of the car. Marcus reached for his radio. Unit 247 to dispatch. I need a backup unit at my location for a possible DUI arrest. Copy Unit 247. Unit 185 is en route. Estimated arrival in 5 minutes. David heard the radio call. His shoulders dropped in defeat. Fine, he said. I'll get out. But you're making a huge mistake. This is really important. Marcus stepped back as David opened his car door. David stood up slowly. He was about average height and seemed to be in good shape. But Marcus could see that David was not steady on his feet. He swayed slightly as he stood. Mr. Chen, have you taken any medications tonight? Marcus asked. No, just the wine. Look, officer, I know I shouldn't have been speeding. I can pay the fine. I just really need to get where I'm going. Marcus could see another police car approaching with its lights flashing. Officer Sarah Johnson was in Unit 185. She was a good officer and would help with the arrest if needed. Mr. Chen, I'm going to conduct some field sobriety tests. These tests will help me determine if you're safe to drive. This is insane, David said. I'm not some drunk driver. I work with lawyers. I know people in the legal system. You can't treat me like this. Marcus had heard this threat before too. People often claimed to know important people when they were in trouble. It never changed what he had to do. The law was the same for everyone. Officer Johnson parked behind Marcus's car and walked over. What do we have here, Marcus? She asked. Possible DUI. Subject was speeding, smells like alcohol, and is refusing to cooperate fully. David looked at both officers. Please, you have to understand. Someone is waiting for me. It's a matter of life and death. Marcus and Sarah exchanged glances. They had both heard dramatic claims like this many times. Marcus pulled out his breathalyzer device. Mr. Chen, I need you to blow into this device. It will measure your blood alcohol level. David looked at the device like it was a snake. What happens if I refuse? Then you'll be arrested automatically and your license will be suspended. David closed his eyes and took a deep breath. This is the worst night of my life, he whispered. Marcus waited patiently. He knew this was a difficult moment for David, but keeping drunk drivers off the road was one of the most important parts of his job. He thought about his own family and all the other families on the road that night. His duty was clear. David finally blew into the breathalyzer device. The machine beeped and showed the results. Marcus looked at the screen. The reading was 0.09, which was over the legal limit of 0.08. David was officially drunk according to the law. Mr. Chen, you're under arrest for driving under the influence, Marcus said. He pulled out his handcuffs. David's face went white. No. This can't be happening. Do you know what you're doing? You're ruining my life. Sir, please turn around and put your hands behind your back, Marcus said calmly. David started to panic. Wait, I need to make a phone call. I have rights, don't I? I need to call someone right now. You'll be able to make a phone call at the station, sir. Right now, I need you to cooperate. Marcus gently turned David around and put the handcuffs on him. David was shaking, but he did not fight. Marcus could see tears in David's eyes. This is the worst thing that could happen tonight, David said quietly. Of all the nights for this to happen. Marcus led David to his police car and helped him into the back seat. The back of a police car had no door handles on the inside and was separated from the front by thick plastic. David sat quietly, staring out the window. Officer Johnson followed Marcus and David to the police station. The station was busy even though it was late at night. There were other officers booking criminals, and several people sitting on benches waiting to be processed. Marcus parked in the back of the station where they brought in arrested people. He helped David out of the car and walked him through the back door. The booking area was bright with white lights. It smelled like cleaning supplies and coffee. Have a seat here, Mr. Chen, Marcus said, pointing to a bench along the wall. I need to fill out some paperwork and then we'll get you processed. David sat down heavily. He looked around the room like he had never seen anything like it before. Other people were sitting on the same bench. There was an older man who smelled like he had been drinking for days. There was a young woman with messy hair who kept asking when she could leave. There was a teenager who looked scared and kept calling for his mother. Marcus went to his desk and started filling out the arrest report. He wrote down all the details: the time of the stop, David's behavior, the breathalyzer results, and everything David had said. He also ran David's name through the computer system to check for any other problems. The computer search took a few minutes. When the results came back, Marcus was surprised. David had 3 unpaid traffic tickets from the past 6 months. The tickets were old enough that there was now a warrant for his arrest. This meant David was in even more trouble than just the drunk driving charge. Marcus walked back over to David. "Mr. Chen, I need to tell you that you have an outstanding warrant for unpaid traffic fines. This means you'll have to stay here until you can see a judge." David looked up at Marcus with complete shock. "A warrant? What are you talking about?" "I pay my tickets. The computer shows 3 unpaid tickets from this year. 2 for speeding and 1 for running a red light. Do you remember getting these tickets?" David put his head in his hands. "Oh God, I forgot about those. I moved recently, and I think the notices went to my old address. I never got them. I'm sorry, sir, but ignorance of unpaid fines doesn't make the warrant go away. You'll have to stay until your court appearance." "When will that be?" David asked desperately. "Probably Monday morning. Today is Friday night, so the earliest would be Monday." David's eyes filled with tears. "Monday? I can't stay here until Monday." "You don't understand what's happening." Marcus sat down next to David. Even though David was under arrest, Marcus could see he was really upset about something. "Mr. Chen, what's the emergency you keep talking about?" David was quiet for a long moment. He seemed to be deciding whether to tell Marcus the truth. Finally, he spoke very quietly. "My mother is in the hospital. She had a heart attack earlier tonight. The doctors called and they said she might not make it through the weekend." Marcus felt his stomach drop. If this was true, then David really did have a family emergency. But Marcus had heard many lies from drunk drivers before. People said anything to get out of trouble. "I'm sorry to hear about your mother, sir. Do you have any proof of this? Hospital records or anything?" David reached for his pocket but remembered he was in handcuffs. "My phone. Check my phone. There are messages from the hospital and from my family." Marcus thought about this. He could check David's phone, but even if the messages were real, it did not change the fact that David was drunk driving. David had made a choice to drink and drive even knowing his mother was sick. "Mr. Chen, even if your mother is in the hospital, I can't let drunk drivers go. What if you had hit someone on the way to see her? What if you had killed an innocent family?" "But I didn't hit anyone." "I was being careful." "Sir, drunk drivers always think they're being careful. But alcohol affects your judgment and your reflexes. You were going 20 miles over the speed limit." "That's not careful." David started crying. "She's going to die thinking I don't care about her. We had a fight 2 years ago and we barely talk anymore. Tonight was my chance to make things right with her." Marcus felt terrible for David, but he knew he had done the right thing. "Mr. Chen, I understand this is hard, but the law exists to protect everyone. I can't make exceptions even for family emergencies." A female officer named Detective Lisa Wong came over to where Marcus and David were sitting. "Rivera, is this the DUI arrest?" "Yes, ma'am." "David Chen. He also has a warrant for unpaid fines." Detective Wong looked at David. "Mr. Chen, we need to finish booking you. That means taking your fingerprints, your photo, and recording your personal information." David looked up at her. "Detective, I need to make a phone call. It's very important. You'll get your phone call after we finish the booking process. It's the law." They moved to another room where David was fingerprinted and photographed. David cooperated with everything, but he kept asking about making his phone call. Marcus could see that David was getting more worried as time passed. After the booking was complete, Detective Wong led David to a phone on the wall. "You get 1 phone call, Mr. Chen. Make it count." David picked up the phone with shaking hands. He dialed a number and waited. Marcus could hear one side of the conversation. "Patricia?" "It's David. I'm in jail." "No, I'm not joking. I got arrested for DUI. I was trying to get to the hospital to see Mom." "What do you mean, what hospital?" "City General. Where else would she be?" "What, she's not there anymore?" "They moved her where?" "St. Mary's." "When?" "An hour ago?" David's face became even more pale. How bad is it? What do you mean, critical condition? Is she awake? Can she talk? Patricia, I need to get out of here. Can you help me? What do you mean you can't help? You're a... Oh, right. I forgot. David hung up the phone and leaned against the wall. He looked like he might fall down. Mr. Chen, are you okay? Marcus asked. They moved my mother to a different hospital. Her condition got worse. My sister says... David's voice broke. My sister says she might not live through the night. Marcus felt awful. But he also noticed something strange about David's phone call. David had started to say, "You're a..." but then stopped. What was David's sister that made her unable to help? Detective Wong led David to a holding cell. The cell was small with just a bed and a toilet. There were 3 other men already in the cell. David sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the floor. Marcus finished his paperwork and prepared to go home. But he could not stop thinking about David. What if David's mother really was dying? What if this arrest prevented David from saying goodbye to her? But then Marcus thought about the statistics he knew. Drunk drivers killed over 10,000 people every year. Many of those victims were innocent families just trying to get home safely. Marcus had seen the photos of car accidents caused by drunk drivers. Children, parents, grandparents, all dead because someone thought they were okay to drive after drinking. Marcus also thought about David's behavior during the arrest. David had been speeding significantly. He had been drinking. His story about where he was going had changed. Even if his mother was sick, David had made dangerous choices. Officer Johnson walked over to Marcus. Tough call tonight, she said. Yeah, he says his mother is dying in the hospital. Do you believe him? Marcus thought about it. I think something is happening with his family. But even if it's true, I couldn't let him drive drunk. He could have killed someone. You did the right thing, Marcus. The law doesn't have exceptions for family emergencies. If we let people go every time they claim to have an emergency, we'd never arrest anyone for DUI. Marcus nodded, but he still felt bad. He went to check on David one more time before leaving. David was sitting in the same position, staring at the floor. The other men in the cell were sleeping. Mr. Chen, is there anything else I can do for you? Marcus asked quietly. David looked up. His eyes were red from crying.
Can you call the hospital and tell them where I am?
Ask them to tell my mother that I tried to get there. What's your mother's name? Margaret Chen. She's at St. Mary's Hospital now. Marcus wrote down the information. I'll see what I can do. As Marcus was leaving the station, he thought about calling the hospital. But then he realized it might not be appropriate. He was just the arresting officer. It was not his job to get involved in David's family problems. David sat in the jail cell all night without sleeping. The other men in the cell snored loudly, but David could not rest. He kept thinking about his mother lying in a hospital bed, wondering where he was. He kept thinking about the last conversation they had 2 years ago, when they had argued about his life choices. At 6 in the morning, a guard brought breakfast to the cell. It was cold eggs, toast, and coffee that tasted like water. David could not eat anything. His stomach was too upset. First time in jail? Asked one of the other men in the cell. He was an older man with gray hair and a kind face. Yes, David said quietly. What are you in for? DUI. I was trying to get to the hospital to see my mother. She's dying. The older man shook his head. That's rough, kid. I'm sorry about your mom. I should have taken a taxi, David said. I should have called an Uber. I don't know why I thought I was okay to drive. We all make stupid decisions when we're scared, the older man said. The important thing is learning from them. At 8 o'clock, Detective Wong came to the cell. Chen, you have a visitor. David's heart jumped. Maybe his sister Patricia had come to help him get out. Maybe she had found a way to get him released so he could see their mother. Detective Wong led David to a visiting room. It was a small room with a table and 2 chairs. Sitting at the table was a woman David had never seen before. She was middle-aged with short brown hair and wore a business suit. Mr. Chen, I'm attorney Rebecca Martinez. Your sister called me this morning and asked me to represent you. David sat down across from her. Can you get me out of here? I need to see my mother. I've reviewed your case, Mr. Chen. You have 2 problems. First, the DUI charge. Second, the warrant for unpaid tickets. Because of the warrant, you have to stay in jail until you see a judge. When will that be? Monday morning. I know that's not what you want to hear, but that's how the system works. David put his head in his hands. She's going to die before then. The doctor said she might not make it through the weekend. Attorney Martinez leaned forward. Mr. Chen, I spoke with your sister this morning. She told me about your mother's condition. I also want you to know that she's very worried about you. Patricia is worried about me. We haven't talked in 2 years except for last night. She said you two had a fight, but she never stopped caring about you. She's at the hospital with your mother right now. David felt tears in his eyes again. What did the doctor say about Mom? Your mother had a massive heart attack. She's in critical condition, but she's still alive. The doctors are doing everything they can. Is she awake? Can she talk? Attorney Martinez hesitated. She's been in and out of consciousness, but when she's awake, she keeps asking for you. David started crying harder. She's asking for me? Even after our fight? Mr. Chen, your sister wants you to know that your mother never stopped loving you. The fight you had 2 years ago was about small things. Your mother always hoped you would come back. What was the fight about again? David asked. I've been so angry for so long that I almost forgot why we stopped talking. Your sister said it was about your job and your drinking. Your mother was worried that you were working too much and drinking too much. She wanted you to slow down and take care of yourself. David laughed bitterly. She was right. Look where I am now. I'm in jail for drunk driving and she's dying in a hospital. Mr. Chen, people make mistakes. The important thing is learning from them and making better choices going forward. But what if I don't get the chance to tell her I'm sorry? What if she dies thinking I don't love her? Attorney Martinez reached into her briefcase and pulled out a piece of paper and a pen. I can't get you out of jail until Monday, but I can do something else. I can take a letter from you to your mother. I'm going to the hospital after I leave here. David looked at the paper. You would do that? Yes, your sister asked me to offer this. She thought it might help both you and your mother. David picked up the pen with shaking hands. He stared at the blank paper for a long time. What could he say? How could he put 2 years of regret into a letter? Finally, David started writing. Dear Mom, I am so sorry for everything. I am sorry for the fight we had 2 years ago. I am sorry for staying away so long. I am sorry for not calling you more often. I am sorry for being stubborn and proud. I know you were worried about my drinking, and you were right to be worried. I am in jail right now because I drank too much and tried to drive to see you. I made a terrible mistake and I could have hurt someone. You taught me better than that. I want you to know that I never stopped loving you even when I was angry. I thought about calling you so many times, but I was too embarrassed to admit you were right about my problems. I wish I could be there with you right now. I wish I could hold your hand and tell you in person how much you mean to me. You are the best mother anyone could ask for. You always supported me, even when I made bad choices. Please don't worry about me. I am safe and I am going to get help for my drinking problem. I promise I will make better choices from now on. I promise I will become the son you always wanted me to be. I love you more than words can say. Please get better so I can come home and take care of you the way you took care of me. Your son, David. David folded the letter and gave it to Attorney Martinez. Please make sure she gets this. I will hand it to her myself, she promised. After Attorney Martinez left, David was taken back to his cell. The day passed very slowly. David tried to sleep, but every time he closed his eyes, he saw his mother's face. He kept wondering if she was still alive. At lunchtime, David still could not eat. The other men in the cell tried to talk to him, but David did not feel like talking. He sat on his bed and stared at the wall. Around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Detective Wong came to the cell again. Chen, you have another visitor. David's heart started beating fast. Maybe it was Attorney Martinez with news about his mother. Maybe it was his sister Patricia. But when David got to the visiting room, he was surprised to see Officer Marcus Rivera sitting at the table. Marcus was not wearing his uniform. He was wearing jeans and a t-shirt. Officer Rivera, what are you doing here? Marcus looked uncomfortable. I wanted to check on you. I know last night was difficult. David sat down across from Marcus. Why do you care what happens to me? You're the one who arrested me. Because I've been thinking about what you said, about your mother being in the hospital. Did you think I was lying? Marcus shook his head. No, I believed you. That's what made it so hard. I knew you were telling the truth, but I still had to arrest you. So why are you here? I called the hospital this morning. I asked about your mother. David's eyes went wide. You called about my mom. What did they say? They said she's still in critical condition, but she's stable. The doctors think she might pull through. David felt a huge wave of relief. She's going to be okay? The doctors can't make any promises, but they're more hopeful than they were last night. David started crying again, but this time they were tears of relief. Thank you for calling. You didn't have to do that, Marcus leaned forward. David, I want you to understand something. I didn't arrest you because I wanted to ruin your life. I arrested you because it's my job to keep people safe. I know that now. I was just so panicked about my mom that I wasn't thinking clearly. Drunk driving kills thousands of people every year. Most drunk drivers don't think they're going to hurt anyone, but they do. I've seen too many families destroyed by drunk driving accidents. David nodded. I could have killed someone last night. I could have killed a family with children. Yes, you could have, but you didn't. And now you have a chance to learn from this mistake. I'm going to get help for my drinking problem, David said. I'm going to stop drinking completely. That's good to hear. But David, you need to understand that getting help is not just about avoiding future arrests. It's about taking care of yourself and the people who love you. My mother was right about my drinking. She tried to warn me 2 years ago, but I was too proud to listen. Marcus stood up to leave. David, your mother is going to be okay. And when you get out of here on Monday, you're going to have a chance to make things right with her. Officer Rivera, can I ask you something? Sure. Do you have children? Yes, I have 2 kids. A daughter and a son. What would you do if one of your children made the same mistake I made last night? Marcus thought about this question for a long moment. I would be disappointed in them, but I would still love them. And I would help them get the help they needed to make better choices. That's what my mother did for me. She never stopped loving me even when I was making bad choices. Marcus smiled. Sounds like you have a good mother. The best mother in the world, David said. After Marcus left, David felt better than he had since the arrest. His mother was going to be okay. She had received his letter, and she knew that he loved her. David also realized something important. Officer Rivera had not arrested him to be mean or to ruin his life. Officer Rivera had arrested him because it was his job to protect people. David had been dangerous last night, even though he did not mean to be. For the first time since the arrest, David was able to eat something. He had soup and crackers for dinner, and they actually tasted good. That night, David was finally able to sleep. He dreamed about his mother. In the dream, she was healthy and happy. Monday morning came early for David. At 6 o'clock, a guard woke up all the men in the jail cell. They were given breakfast and told to get ready for court. David had not slept well, but he felt more prepared than he had over the weekend. Court day, said the older man who had been kind to David. You nervous? A little, David said. But I'm ready to face whatever happens. That's the right attitude, kid. Take responsibility, show respect to the judge, and things will go better for you. David nodded. He had been thinking about what he would say to the judge. He wanted to be honest about his mistakes, but he also wanted to explain about his mother. At 7:30, the guards came to collect the men who had court that morning. David and 5 other men were handcuffed together and led to a bus. The bus ride to the courthouse took about 20 minutes. The courthouse was a big old building made of gray stone. It looked serious and important. David had never been inside a courthouse before. As they walked through the metal detectors and down the long hallways, David felt small and scared. The guards led David and the other men to a holding room behind the courtroom. Through a small window, David could see the courtroom. It had rows of wooden benches like a church. At the front was a big desk where the judge would sit. Everything looked formal and intimidating. Attorney Martinez came to see David in the holding room. She was carrying a briefcase and looked very professional. Good morning, David. How are you feeling? Nervous, but ready to get this over with. I have good news about your mother. I visited her yesterday evening and she's doing much better. The doctors think she's going to make a full recovery. David felt a huge weight lift off his shoulders. Really? She's going to be okay? Yes, she's awake and talking. And she received your letter. She cried when she read it, but they were happy tears. What did she say? She said she loves you and she's proud of you for taking responsibility for your mistakes. She also said she can't wait to see you when you get out of here. David felt tears in his eyes. I can't wait to see her too. David, I need to prepare you for what's going to happen in court today. You're going to appear before Judge Patricia Chen. She's known for being fair but strict. David looked confused. Chen? That's my last name too. It's a common name, Attorney Martinez said. Don't worry about it. Just focus on being respectful and honest. At 9 o'clock, David's case was called. A guard unlocked his handcuffs and led him into the courtroom. David saw that there were many people sitting in the benches watching the court proceedings. Some looked like lawyers, some looked like family members of other defendants. David walked to a table at the front of the courtroom where Attorney Martinez was waiting for him. Across from them sat a prosecutor, a serious-looking woman in a dark suit. "All rise," said the court clerk. "The Honorable Judge Patricia Chen presiding." David stood up along with everyone else in the courtroom. A door at the front of the room opened and the judge walked in. She was an Asian woman, probably in her late 30s, wearing black robes. She looked professional and confident. The judge sat down at her big desk and put on reading glasses. "You may be seated," she said. David sat down and looked at the judge more carefully. Something about her face looked familiar, but he could not figure out where he might have seen her before. "The first case is People versus David Chen, case number 2024 DUI 1157, the court clerk announced. Judge Chen looked down at the papers in front of her. When she saw David's name, her face changed slightly. She looked up at David and their eyes met across the courtroom. David felt his heart stop. The judge looked exactly like his sister Patricia, but older. The same eyes, the same nose, the same expression when she was thinking hard about something. Judge Chen stared at David for a long moment. Her face had gone very pale. She looked down at the papers again, then back up at David. "Mr. Chen," the judge said slowly, "please state your full name for the record." "David Michael Chen," David said in a shaky voice. "And your address?" David gave his address. Judge Chen wrote something down, but her hand was trembling slightly. "Your Honor," Attorney Martinez said, "we're here today for arraignment on charges of driving under the influence and failure to appear on previous traffic citations." Judge Chen looked at Attorney Martinez, then back at David. "Mr. Chen, do you understand the charges against you?" "Yes, Your Honor," David said. "And how do you plead to the charge of driving under the influence?" David stood up. "Guilty, Your Honor. And to the charge of failure to appear?" "Guilty, Your Honor." Judge Chen was quiet for a long moment. She seemed to be struggling with something. Finally, she spoke. "Mr. Chen, before we proceed with sentencing, I need to ask you a personal question. Do you have a sister named Patricia?" David's mouth fell open. "Yes, Your Honor, I do." "And is your mother's name Margaret Chen?" "Yes, Your Honor." The courtroom became completely silent. Everyone could sense that something unusual was happening, but most people did not understand what it was. Judge Chen took off her glasses and rubbed her face with her hands. When she looked up again, David could see that her eyes were filled with tears. "Mr. Chen," she said in a voice that was barely above a whisper, "I am Patricia Chen. I am your sister." David felt like the world had stopped spinning. His sister was the judge in his case. The sister he had not spoken to in 2 years was sitting in front of him, wearing judge's robes, about to decide his punishment. "Patricia?" David said. "Yes, David. It's me." Attorney Martinez looked completely shocked. The prosecutor looked confused. The people in the courtroom started whispering to each other. Judge Chen banged her gavel. "Order in the court." "Please be quiet," she looked at David again. "Mr. Chen, I need to inform you that I cannot be the judge in your case. Because you are my brother, I have a conflict of interest. I will need to recuse myself and your case will be assigned to another judge." "Patricia, David started to say. "Mr. Chen," Judge Chen said formally, "this is not the time or place for a family conversation. We are in a court of law, and we must follow proper procedures." But David could see that his sister was struggling to maintain her professional composure. Her hands were shaking, and her voice was not as steady as it had been when she first entered the room. "Your Honor," Attorney Martinez said, "may we request a brief recess?" Judge Chen nodded. "The court will take a 15-minute recess. Bailiff, please escort Mr. Chen back to the holding room." As David was being led out of the courtroom, he looked back at his sister. She was sitting at her desk with her head in her hands. David wanted to run to her and hug her, but the bailiff kept walking him toward the door. In the holding room, David sat on a bench and tried to process what had just happened. His sister Patricia was a judge. He had not known this. They had not talked in 2 years, so he had no idea what had happened in her life. David remembered that during his phone call from jail, Patricia had started to say, "You're a," but then stopped. She had been about to say, "You're a judge," but she caught herself. Attorney Martinez came into the holding room. She still looked shocked by what had happened. "David, did you know your sister was a judge?" "No, I had no idea. We haven't talked in 2 years. The last time I saw her, she was working as a lawyer at a law firm. She must have been appointed to the bench since then." "David, this complicates things, but it might also help." "How could it help?" "Well, your sister knows you better than any other judge would. She knows you're not a bad person who makes drunk driving a habit. She knows about your mother's condition and the family emergency. But she said she can't be my judge because of conflict of interest." "That's correct. She has to recuse herself. But she might be able to talk to the judge who takes your case. She might be able to provide character information." A few minutes later, a different bailiff came to get David. "The judge wants to see you in her chambers." David was led through a back hallway to a small office behind the courtroom. Judge Chen was sitting behind a desk, still wearing her robes. But now she looked like his sister Patricia instead of an intimidating judge. "Sit down, David," she said softly. David sat in a chair across from her desk. For a moment, neither of them said anything. "How is Mom?" Patricia asked. "She's going to be okay. Attorney Martinez said the doctors think she'll make a full recovery." Patricia started crying. "I was so scared, David. When you called Friday night and told me she was in the hospital, I rushed over there. She was so sick. I'm sorry I wasn't there, Patricia. I'm sorry I got arrested instead of being with the family." "David, why were you drinking and driving? You know better than that." David looked down at his hands. "I know, I made a terrible mistake. I was at a work dinner and I had some wine. When you called about Mom, I panicked. I should have called a taxi, but I wasn't thinking clearly. You could have killed someone, David. I know. Officer Rivera explained that to me. I understand now how dangerous it was." Patricia wiped her eyes with a tissue. "David, I need to tell you something. I can't be the judge in your case, but I want you to know that I'm proud of you for pleading guilty and taking responsibility. I just want to do the right thing now. The judge who takes your case is going to be Judge Robert Martinez. He's a good man and a fair judge. I'm going to talk to him about your character and about Mom's situation. Will that help?" Judge Robert Martinez entered the courtroom 10 minutes later. He was an older man with gray hair and kind eyes. He looked like someone who had seen many difficult cases and understood that people make mistakes. "Please be seated," Judge Martinez said as he took his place behind the bench. "I understand we have an unusual situation here today. Judge Chen has recused herself due to a family relationship with the defendant." David stood next to Attorney Martinez at the defendant's table. His heart was beating fast. He could see his sister Patricia sitting in the back of the courtroom. She had taken off her judge's robes and was wearing a regular business suit. "Mr. David Chen," Judge Martinez said, "you have pleaded guilty to driving under the influence and failure to appear on previous traffic citations. Is that correct?" "Yes, Your Honor," David said. "Before I proceed with sentencing, I want to make sure you understand what pleading guilty means. It means you are admitting that you committed these crimes. Do you understand that?" "Yes, Your Honor, I understand." Judge Martinez looked at some papers on his desk. "Mr. Chen, I have spoken with Judge Chen about your character and your family situation. She has told me that your mother recently suffered a heart attack and that you were attempting to reach the hospital when you were arrested." "That's correct, Your Honor. She has also told me that you and your family had been estranged for 2 years, and that your arrest has led to a reconciliation with your family." David glanced back at Patricia. She nodded encouragingly at him. "Yes, Your Honor. My sister and I had not spoken in 2 years because of a disagreement. When I called her from jail, it was the first time we had talked since our fight." Judge Martinez leaned forward. "Mr. Chen, I want you to tell me in your own words what happened on the night you were arrested." David took a deep breath. This was his chance to explain everything that had happened. "Your Honor, I was at a work dinner that Friday night. I had some wine with my meal. I thought I was okay to drive, but I was wrong about that." "How much did you have to drink?" 2 glasses of wine over about 3 hours. I felt fine when I left the restaurant, but the breathalyzer showed I was over the legal limit." "What happened next?" "I got a phone call from my family. They told me that my mother had suffered a heart attack and was in the hospital. I was told that her condition was very serious and that she might not survive." David's voice started to shake as he remembered that terrible phone call. "I panicked, Your Honor. I hadn't spoken to my mother in 2 years because of a stupid fight we had. I thought she might die before I could tell her I was sorry. So you decided to drive to the hospital? Yes, sir. I know now that I should have called a taxi or asked someone else to drive me. But I wasn't thinking clearly. I was scared and worried, and I made a terrible decision. Judge Martinez nodded. What happened when Officer Rivera stopped you? I was speeding because I was trying to get to the hospital quickly. Officer Rivera was very professional, but I was not cooperative. I was angry and frustrated because I knew the arrest meant I wouldn't be able to see my mother. Did you think about the danger you posed to other drivers? David hung his head. No, Your Honor. I was only thinking about myself and my family emergency. I didn't consider that I could have hurt innocent people. That was selfish and wrong. Mr. Chen, what have you learned from this experience? David thought carefully about his answer. This was the most important question Judge Martinez had asked. Your Honor, I've learned several important things. First, I learned that I have a drinking problem. I thought I could handle alcohol, but I was wrong. I've realized that I need to stop drinking completely. Judge Martinez made a note on his papers. Second, I learned that family emergencies don't justify breaking the law. Even though I was scared about my mother, I had no right to put other people in danger. What else? I learned that Officer Rivera was just doing his job. At first, I was angry at him for arresting me. But now I understand that he was protecting the public. He treated me fairly and professionally, even though I was not cooperative. Judge Martinez looked impressed with David's answers. Mr. Chen, Judge Chen has told me that you have no prior arrests and that this DUI charge is very out of character for you. She has also told me that you work as an accountant and have a good reputation in your community. That's correct, Your Honor. However, I must also consider the seriousness of your crimes. Driving under the influence puts innocent people at risk, and failing to pay your traffic tickets shows a pattern of not taking your legal responsibilities seriously. David nodded. I understand, Your Honor. Judge Martinez was quiet for a moment, looking at his papers and thinking about David's case. Mr. Chen, I am going to sentence you today, but I want to explain my reasoning. This court sees many DUI cases, and most defendants try to make excuses for their behavior. You have not made excuses. You have taken full responsibility for your actions. David felt a small bit of hope. I also consider the unusual circumstances of your case. Your family emergency was real, and your arrest has led to positive changes in your life. You have reconciled with your family, and you have committed to addressing your alcohol use. Judge Martinez looked directly at David. However, I cannot ignore the fact that you drove while intoxicated and could have caused serious harm. The law must be applied equally to everyone, regardless of their personal circumstances. David braced himself for the sentence. Mr. Chen, for the charge of driving under the influence, I sentence you to 6 months in jail, with all but 30 days suspended. This means you will serve 30 days in jail. David felt his stomach drop. 30 days seemed like a very long time. However, Judge Martinez continued, I am allowing you to serve this time on weekends only, so you can continue working and caring for your mother. David felt relieved. Weekend jail would be difficult, but at least he could keep his job and spend time with his family during the week. For the failure to appear charges, I sentence you to an additional 10 days in jail, also to be served on weekends. You will also pay a fine of $2,000, complete 60 hours of community service, attend alcohol counseling classes, and your driver's license will be suspended for 6 months. David nodded. I understand, Your Honor. Mr. Chen, I want to be very clear about something. This is your one and only chance. If you ever appear in my courtroom again for any alcohol-related offense, you will serve the full 6 months in jail. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor, you won't see me again. I hope not, Mr. Chen. You seem like a good man who made some bad choices. Use this experience to become a better person. I will, Your Honor. Thank you for your fairness. Judge Martinez banged his gavel. Court is adjourned. As David was being processed for release, he felt a mixture of emotions. He was disappointed about the jail time and the other penalties, but he knew he deserved them. He was also grateful that Judge Martinez had been fair and understanding. Attorney Martinez walked with David as he was released from custody. David, that was a very good outcome, she said. Judge Martinez could have given you much harsher penalties. I know. I'm grateful for his fairness. The weekend jail program will allow you to keep your job and take care of your mother, and the alcohol counseling will help you address your drinking problem. When David walked out of the courthouse, Patricia was waiting for him on the steps. She hugged him tightly. How do you feel? She asked. Relieved, scared, grateful, a lot of different things. David, I want you to know that I'm proud of how you handled yourself in there. You took responsibility for your actions and you were honest about your mistakes. I learned that from you, Patricia. You always taught me to tell the truth even when it's difficult. They walked to Patricia's car together. As they drove toward the hospital to see their mother, David thought about everything that had happened over the past few days. Patricia, can I ask you something? Of course. How long have you been a judge? About a year. I was appointed last year when Judge Williams retired. I was planning to tell you and Mom, but we weren't speaking at the time. I'm sorry I missed that. Becoming a judge is a huge accomplishment. David, there's something I need to tell you about the night you were arrested. David looked at her. What do you mean? When you called me from jail, you said you were trying to get to City General Hospital to see Mom. But Mom wasn't at City General. I know. You told me she had been moved to St. Mary's. David, Mom was never at City General. She was always at St. Mary's. When you called me that night, I was confused about why you thought she was at the wrong hospital. David thought about this. I guess I just assumed she would be at City General because that's where our family always went. But David, if you had been successful in driving to City General, you wouldn't have found Mom there anyway. You would have driven drunk for no reason. David realized Patricia was right. Even if he had not been arrested, he would have gone to the wrong hospital. His drinking had affected his judgment so much that he could not even remember which hospital his sister had mentioned on the phone. You're right, David said. My drinking was affecting my thinking more than I realized. I could have driven drunk to the wrong hospital and never seen Mom at all. David, I think your arrest might have been a blessing in disguise. It forced you to face your drinking problem before it got even worse. The next morning, Officer Marcus Rivera arrived at the police station for his regular shift. He had slept better than he had in days, knowing that David Chen was reunited with his family and that Mrs. Chen was recovering well. But as soon as Marcus walked into the station, he could tell something was different. Several of his fellow officers looked at him strangely. Some whispered to each other when they saw him. Marcus felt confused and a little worried. Sergeant Williams, Marcus's supervisor, called him into his office. Rivera, sit down. We need to talk. Marcus sat in the chair across from Sergeant Williams's desk. The sergeant was a fair man who had been Marcus's mentor for several years. Marcus, there's been some talk around the station about your DUI arrest on Friday night. What kind of talk, Sergeant? Well, it seems that the person you arrested was Judge Patricia Chen's brother. Marcus nodded. Yes, sir. I found out about that in court yesterday. It was quite a surprise, I bet it was. Marcus, some people are saying you should have known who David Chen was before you arrested him. How could I have known? I had never met him before, and he never mentioned his sister during the arrest. Sergeant Williams leaned back in his chair. Marcus, I'm not criticizing you. I think you handled the situation correctly. But there are some officers who think you should have been more flexible. What do you mean by flexible? Some people think that when someone claims to have a family emergency, especially someone connected to a judge, you should consider letting them go with just a warning. Marcus felt his face getting hot. Sergeant David Chen was drunk. He failed the breathalyzer test. He was driving 20 miles over the speed limit. I couldn't let him continue driving in that condition, no matter who his sister was. I agree with you completely, Marcus, but not everyone sees it that way. Just then, Officer Tony Castellanos knocked on the door. Sergeant, sorry to interrupt, but there's a reporter here asking questions about the Chen arrest. Marcus and Sergeant Williams looked at each other with concern. What kind of questions? Sergeant Williams asked. She wants to know if we give special treatment to people connected to judges. She heard about the arrest and is investigating whether we have a fairness problem. Sergeant Williams sighed. Send her to the Public Information Office. We'll handle this through proper channels. After Officer Castellanos left, Sergeant Williams looked at Marcus seriously. Marcus, this situation is getting complicated. The media is involved now, and that means the department is going to be under scrutiny. Sergeant, I did everything by the book. I followed all procedures correctly. I know you did, Marcus. That's not the problem. The problem is that some people will say you should have done more to help David Chen because of his family emergency. Others will say you did the right thing by treating everyone equally. Marcus felt frustrated. So what am I supposed to do? Ignore the law when people claim to have emergencies? Of course not. But Marcus, you need to understand that this case is going to follow you for a while. Some people will question every decision you make. Later that day, Marcus was having lunch in the police station break room when Officer Jennifer Murphy sat down next to him. Jennifer was a good officer who Marcus respected. "Hey Marcus, I heard about your arrest on Friday night." "Yeah, it's been an interesting few days. I wanted you to know that I think you did the right thing. A lot of the other officers think so too." Marcus felt relieved to hear this. "Thanks, Jennifer. I was starting to wonder if I had made a mistake." "Marcus, can I tell you something? Last year I arrested a man for DUI who claimed his wife was in labor at the hospital. I felt terrible about it, but I couldn't let him drive drunk to see his baby being born." "What happened?" "It turned out he was lying. His wife wasn't even pregnant. He was just trying to get out of the arrest. If I had believed him and let him go, he could have killed someone." Marcus nodded. "That's exactly what I was thinking about David Chen's case. Even if his emergency was real, I couldn't let him drive drunk." "Marcus, drunk drivers always have emergencies. They're always rushing to see someone important or get somewhere critical, but alcohol doesn't care about emergencies. It still makes people dangerous drivers." That afternoon, Marcus was called to the police chief's office. Chief Rodriguez was a tough but fair leader who had been with the department for over 20 years. "Rivera, I've been hearing about your DUI arrest from Friday night." "Yes, sir. I know it's become a complicated situation. Marcus, I want you to know that I've reviewed your arrest report and the dashcam video from your patrol car. You handled everything correctly." Marcus felt a wave of relief. "Thank you, sir. However, I also want you to understand the position this puts our department in. When we arrest family members of judges, prosecutors, or other officials, people pay extra attention to how we handle the case. I understand, sir. Some people will say we're too harsh on connected people. Others will say we're too easy on them. We can't win either way." Chief Rodriguez stood up and walked to his window. "Marcus, let me ask you something. If David Chen had been the brother of a janitor instead of a judge, would you have arrested him?" "Yes, sir, absolutely." "And if he had been the brother of the mayor?" "Yes, sir." "What about if he had been my brother?" Marcus hesitated for just a moment, then answered firmly. "Yes, sir. I would have arrested him." Chief Rodriguez smiled. "That's the right answer, Marcus. The law applies to everyone equally, no matter who they know or who they're related to." "Chief, can I ask you something?" "Sure. Do you think I'll face any consequences for this arrest? Some of the other officers are treating me differently." Chief Rodriguez sat back down. "Marcus, let me be honest with you. This case will probably follow you for a while. Some people will question your judgment. Others will praise you for your integrity. How should I handle that? Just keep doing your job the way you've always done it. Treat everyone fairly. Follow the law and don't let politics influence your decisions." That evening, Marcus went home to his family. His wife, Maria, was cooking dinner while their 2 children did homework at the kitchen table. "How was work today?" Maria asked. "Complicated. People are talking about the arrest I made Friday night. The drunk driver who was rushing to see his mother? Yes, it turns out his sister is a judge, and now everyone has opinions about what I should have done." Maria stopped cooking and looked at Marcus. "What do you mean?" "Some people think I should have let him go because of his family emergency, and because his sister is a judge. Others think I did the right thing by treating him like any other drunk driver." "Marcus, what do you think?" Marcus thought about the question. "I think I did the right thing. David Chen was drunk and driving dangerously. I couldn't let him continue, no matter what his emergency was." Their 8-year-old daughter, Sophia, looked up from her homework. "Daddy, what's a drunk driver?" Marcus sat down next to her. "A drunk driver is someone who drinks alcohol and then drives a car. It's very dangerous because alcohol makes it hard to think clearly and react quickly. Why would someone do that? Sometimes people make bad choices, Sophia. They don't think about how their choices might hurt other people." Their 10-year-old son, Miguel, joined the conversation. "Dad, did you arrest someone for drunk driving?" "Yes, Miguel. I arrested a man who had been drinking and was driving too fast. Was he angry at you?" "At first he was. But later he understood that I was just doing my job to keep people safe." Maria put her hand on Marcus's shoulder. "Honey, you've always taught our children that doing the right thing isn't always easy, but it's always important." "That's true. So why are you doubting yourself now?" Marcus realized Maria was right. He had always believed in doing the right thing even when it was difficult. He had taught his children to stand up for what was right, even when other people disagreed with them. "You're right, Maria, I did the right thing. and I shouldn't let other people's opinions make me doubt that. Later that evening, Marcus received a phone call from David Chen. Officer Rivera, this is David Chen. I hope it's okay that I called you. Of course, David, how are you doing? I'm doing well. I wanted to call because I heard that some people are giving you trouble about arresting me. Marcus was surprised. How did you hear about that? My sister Patricia heard about it from some lawyers at the courthouse. She told me that some people think you should have treated me differently because of who she is. David, I want you to know that I would have made the same arrest no matter who your sister was. I know that, Officer Rivera, and I want you to know that I'm grateful for that. What do you mean? I mean, I'm glad you treated me like everyone else. If you had let me go just because my sister is a judge, it would have sent the message that some people are above the law. Marcus felt a warm feeling in his chest. Thank you for saying that, David. Officer Rivera, I also wanted you to know that I've enrolled in an alcohol treatment program. I start next week. That's great to hear, David. I've also been thinking about what happened that night. Even if you had let me go, I was so confused from drinking that I was driving to the wrong hospital anyway. I could have spent all night driving around drunk looking for my mother. You were in no condition to make good decisions that night. Exactly. By arresting me, you probably saved my life and maybe someone else's life too. 3 days after David's court appearance, Margaret Chen passed away peacefully in her sleep at St. Mary's Hospital. David was holding her hand when she died. Patricia was on the other side of the bed, and they were both with their mother during her final moments. David felt a deep sadness, but also a sense of peace. His mother had lived to see her children reunite. She had received David's letter and knew that he loved her. She had forgiven him for their 2-year separation, and they had spent her last days talking and laughing together like they used to when David was young. The funeral was held at St. Catherine's Church, where the Chen family had attended services when David and Patricia were children. Many people came to pay their respects to Margaret Chen. She had been a beloved teacher at the local elementary school for 30 years before retiring. David was surprised when he saw Officer Marcus Rivera enter the church. Marcus was wearing his dress uniform and looked very solemn. David walked over to him. Officer Rivera, thank you for coming. You didn't have to do this. I wanted to pay my respects to your mother, David. I know how much she meant to you. Would you like to sit with our family? Marcus looked surprised. Are you sure that's appropriate? I mean, I'm the one who arrested you. Officer Rivera, you're the reason I got to spend my mother's last days with her instead of in some bar drinking. Please sit with us. Marcus sat in the pew next to David and Patricia. During the funeral service, the minister talked about Margaret Chen's life as a teacher, a mother, and a friend to many people in the community. Margaret Chen believed that people could learn from their mistakes and become better, the minister said. She believed in forgiveness and second chances. She believed that love was stronger than anger. David thought about how his mother had welcomed him back without anger or blame. She had focused on the future instead of dwelling on the past. After the service, many people came to talk to David and Patricia. David was amazed by how many lives his mother had touched during her years as a teacher. One elderly woman approached David. You must be Margaret's son. She talked about you all the time. She did? Oh yes. Even during your disagreement, she never stopped being proud of you. She always said you were a good man who was just going through a difficult time. David felt tears in his eyes. I wish I had known that. I thought she was angry with me. Your mother was never angry with you, dear. She was worried about you. There's a big difference. As people were leaving the church, Marcus approached David and Patricia. I'm very sorry for your loss, Marcus said to both of them. Your mother seemed like a wonderful woman. Patricia shook Marcus's hand. Thank you for coming, Officer Rivera. It means a lot to our family. Patricia, can I talk to you privately for a moment? Marcus asked. They stepped away from the crowd. Marcus looked nervous. Judge Chen, I hope you don't think I arrested your brother because I didn't know who he was. Even if I had known he was your brother, I would have made the same arrest. Patricia smiled. Officer Rivera, I would have been disappointed in you if you had done anything different. The law must apply to everyone equally, including my family. Thank you for understanding that. Officer Rivera, can I tell you something? As a judge, I see many cases where people try to use their connections to avoid consequences for their actions. It's refreshing to meet a police officer who can't be influenced by politics or personal relationships. Marcus felt proud of Patricia's words. A week after the funeral, David started serving his weekend jail sentences. Every Friday evening, he reported to the county jail and stayed until Sunday evening. It was difficult being locked up, but David used the time to think about his life and his goals. During his first weekend in jail, David met a man named Robert who was also serving time for DUI. "How many times have you been arrested for drunk driving?" David asked. "This is my 4th time," Robert said sadly. "I keep telling myself I'm going to quit drinking, but I never do." "What happens after your 4th DUI?" "I lose my license for 2 years and I have to serve 6 months in jail. Not weekends, full time." David realized how lucky he was to have been caught on his first offense. If he had continued drinking and driving, he could have ended up like Robert. "Robert, why don't you quit drinking?" "I don't know how. I've tried many times, but I always go back to it. Alcohol helps me forget my problems, but it also creates new problems." "Yeah, I know. But when I'm drinking, I don't care about the problems." David understood what Robert meant. Alcohol had helped David avoid thinking about his guilt over the fight with his mother. But avoiding problems didn't make them go away. It just made them worse. During his second weekend in jail, David started attending the Alcoholics Anonymous meetings that were offered to inmates. He was nervous about talking to strangers about his drinking, but he knew he needed help. At his first meeting, David listened to other people share their stories. He was surprised to learn that many successful, intelligent people struggled with alcohol addiction. A woman named Sarah shared her story. She was a doctor who had lost her medical license because of her drinking. "I thought I was too smart to become an alcoholic," Sarah said. "I thought addiction only happened to other people. But alcohol doesn't care how educated you are or how much money you make." When it was David's turn to speak, he felt nervous but also relieved. "My name is David, and I'm an alcoholic," he said. The words felt strange coming out of his mouth, but also true. "I got arrested for DUI 3 weeks ago while trying to get to the hospital to see my dying mother. For 2 years I had been drinking to avoid dealing with family problems. The drinking made me miss the last 2 years of my mother's life." David's voice started to break. "My mother died a week ago, but thanks to my arrest, I was able to spend her last days with her. If I hadn't been arrested, I probably would have spent that time drinking in bars." After the meeting, several people came to talk to David. They welcomed him to the group and offered to help him stay sober. A man named Tom gave David his phone number. "Call me anytime you feel like drinking," Tom said. "Day or night, I'll talk you through it." David was amazed by how kind and supportive the AA group was. These people barely knew him, but they were willing to help him change his life. During his alcohol counseling sessions, David learned about the science of addiction. He learned that alcoholism was a disease, not a moral failing. He also learned practical strategies for avoiding alcohol and dealing with stress in healthy ways. His counselor, Dr. Lisa Martinez, helped David understand why he had started drinking heavily after his fight with his mother. "You were using alcohol to numb emotional pain," Dr. Martinez explained, "but numbing pain doesn't make it go away. It just delays dealing with it. So what should I have done instead of drinking? You could have called your mother and apologized. You could have talked to a counselor about your feelings. You could have written in a journal or exercised or found other healthy ways to process your emotions." David realized that he had many options besides drinking, but alcohol had seemed like the easiest choice at the time. For his community service, David was assigned to work at a local soup kitchen that served meals to homeless people. At first, David felt embarrassed about being there as part of his court sentence, but he quickly discovered that helping other people made him feel good about himself. Many of the people who came to the soup kitchen had their own stories of addiction and legal troubles. David realized that he was not alone in making mistakes, and that many people were working to rebuild their lives. One day, while serving food, David met a man named James who had been homeless for 2 years. "What happened to your housing?" David asked. "I lost my job because of my drinking," James said. "Then I couldn't pay rent, so I got evicted. Once you're homeless, it's very hard to get back on your feet." "Are you still drinking?" "No, I've been sober for 8 months now, but it's taking time to rebuild everything I lost." David realized that his DUI arrest, while serious, was just the beginning of what could have been a much worse downward spiral. By getting help early, he could avoid losing his job, his home, and his relationships. At work, David told his boss about his DUI arrest and his weekend jail schedule. David was worried that he might be fired, but his boss was understanding. "David, everyone makes mistakes," his boss said. "What matters is how you handle the consequences and what you learn from the experience. I'm getting help for my drinking problem, and I'm committed to making better choices. That's what I want to hear. You're a valuable employee, and I'm willing to work with your weekend schedule." David felt grateful for his boss's support. He realized that being honest about his problems was better than trying to hide them. After 6 weeks of weekend jail, David had served his full sentence. On his last Sunday in jail, Robert approached him. "David, you look different than when you first got here." "What do you mean?" "You look healthier, happier, more confident." David thought about this. "I think I've learned a lot about myself during these weeks. I've faced my problems instead of running away from them. I wish I could do that." "Robert, you can. It's never too late to change. The AA meetings really helped me, and they could help you too. Maybe I'll try that." As David left the jail for the final time, he felt proud of himself for completing his sentence with dignity. 6 months later, David Chen stood in the same courtroom where he had been sentenced for drunk driving. But this time he was there for a very different reason. Today was the day he would get his driver's license back and officially complete all the requirements of his sentence. Judge Robert Martinez looked down at David from the bench with a smile. "Mr. Chen, it's good to see you again. I have your completion report here from the probation department. It says you have successfully completed all 60 hours of community service, finished your alcohol counseling program, and served all of your weekend jail time. Is that correct?" "Yes, Your Honor," David said. He was wearing a nice suit and looked healthy and confident. "The report also says you have been attending Alcoholics Anonymous meetings regularly and have maintained complete sobriety for 6 months. How do you feel about that accomplishment?" "I feel proud, Your Honor, but also humble. I know that staying sober is something I will have to work on every day for the rest of my life." "That's a very mature attitude." "Mr. Chen, I also see that you received excellent reviews from the soup kitchen where you did your community service. In fact, they've asked you to continue volunteering there even though your required hours are complete." "Yes, sir. I've decided to keep volunteering there once a week. Helping other people has become an important part of my recovery." Judge Martinez nodded approvingly. "Mr. Chen, when I sentenced you 6 months ago, I told you that this was your one and only chance. You have proven that you took that warning seriously." "I did, Your Honor. This experience changed my life in ways I never expected. Your driver's license suspension is now officially lifted. You are free to drive again. But I want to remind you that driving is a privilege, not a right. I trust you will never again put yourself or others in danger by drinking and driving. You have my word on that." "Your Honor, I will never drink and drive again." As David left the courthouse, he found Patricia waiting for him on the steps. She was smiling and holding a small wrapped gift. "Congratulations, David, I'm so proud of you." They hugged, and David felt grateful for how close they had become over the past 6 months. "What's the gift?" David asked. Patricia handed him the package. "Open it and see." Inside was a keychain with a small medallion that said 6 months sober on one side and 1 day at a time on the other. "I got this from your AA sponsor, Tom. He said it's traditional to celebrate sobriety milestones." David felt touched by the gesture. "Thank you, Patricia. This means a lot to me." "David, I have something else to tell you. I've been offered a position on the state appeals court. It's a big promotion." "That's wonderful. Congratulations." "Thank you. I keep thinking that Mom would be so excited about this news." "She would be incredibly proud of you, Patricia. You've become everything she dreamed you would be." They walked to Patricia's car together. As they drove through the city, David noticed how different everything looked to him now. 6 months ago, he had been consumed by anger, guilt, and alcohol. Now he felt clear-headed and hopeful. "Patricia, can we stop by the cemetery? I want to visit Mom." "Of course." At the cemetery, David and Patricia stood together at their mother's grave. David had been coming here every week since the funeral, and each visit felt more peaceful than the last. "Mom, today I got my driver's license back," David said. "I've completed all the requirements of my sentence, and I've been sober for 6 months." Patricia added, "And Mom, I got promoted to the appeals court." The Chen family is doing well. They stood in comfortable silence for a few minutes, each lost in their own thoughts about their mother. "David," Patricia said, Do you ever wonder what would have happened if Officer Rivera hadn't arrested you that night? David thought about this question. I think about it all the time. If he had let me go, I probably would have driven to the wrong hospital, gotten frustrated, and ended up at a bar drinking even more. You might never have gotten help for your drinking problem, and we might never have reconciled as a family. In a strange way, that arrest was the best thing that ever happened to me. As they drove home, David's phone rang. It was Officer Marcus Rivera. David, this is Marcus Rivera. I hope you don't mind me calling. Of course not, Officer Rivera. It's good to hear from you. I heard through the courthouse that you completed your sentence today. I wanted to congratulate you. Thank you. That means a lot coming from you. David, I have to tell you something. Your case has had a big impact on me and on our whole police department. What do you mean? Since your arrest, our department has been much more consistent about enforcing DUI laws, regardless of who gets arrested or what excuses they give. Your case reminded us that equal justice is one of our most important responsibilities. David felt proud that his experience had led to positive changes. Officer Rivera, I want you to know that I've never regretted that you arrested me. It was exactly what I needed, even though I didn't realize it at the time. That's good to hear, David. Can I ask you something? What advice would you give to other people who are struggling with drinking and driving? David thought carefully about his answer. I would tell them that alcohol makes you think you're in control when you're really not. I thought I was fine to drive that night, but I was completely wrong. I would also tell them that asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. That's excellent advice. Officer Rivera, can I ask you something? Do you ever doubt whether you made the right decision that night? Not anymore, David. At first, I felt bad about keeping you from your mother. But now I see that arresting you was the most helpful thing I could have done for you and your family. After hanging up, David felt grateful for Officer Rivera's professionalism and integrity. Marcus had done his job correctly, even when it was difficult and even when people criticized him for it. That evening, David attended his regular AA meeting. The group had become like a second family to him. These people understood his struggles and supported his recovery in ways that no one else could. When it was time to share, David stood up. Hi, I'm David, and I'm an alcoholic. Hi. David, the group responded. Today marks 6 months since my last drink. It also marks 6 months since I was arrested for drunk driving while trying to get to the hospital to see my dying mother. David's voice was steady and confident as he told his story. 6 months ago, I thought my life was over. I was estranged from my family, I had a serious drinking problem, and I was facing jail time. But today, I realized that getting arrested was the beginning of my new life, not the end of my old one. He looked around the room at the faces of people who had become his friends. I've learned that hitting bottom can be the foundation for building something better. I've learned that taking responsibility for your mistakes is the first step toward making positive changes. And I've learned that asking for help takes more courage than trying to handle everything alone. After the meeting, Tom, David's sponsor, approached him. David, you've come a long way in 6 months. How do you feel about the future? I feel optimistic but not overconfident. I know that staying sober will always require work and vigilance. That's the right attitude. What are your goals for the next 6 months? I want to continue volunteering at the soup kitchen. I want to strengthen my relationship with my sister. And I want to start dating again. But this time as a sober person who can have healthy relationships. Those are good goals. Remember, recovery is a process, not a destination. As David drove home from the meeting, he thought about how much his life had changed since that night on Highway 101. He had lost his mother, but he had gained sobriety and family reconciliation. He had been arrested and punished, but he had also learned valuable lessons about responsibility and integrity. David realized that the worst night of his life had led to the best 6 months of his life. Sometimes people need to hit bottom before they can start climbing back up. When David got home, he found a letter in his mailbox from the soup kitchen where he had done his community service. Dear David, we wanted to thank you for your excellent service over the past 6 months. Your dedication and positive attitude have made a real difference in our ability to serve the homeless community. We also wanted to let you know that we have received several donations from people who were inspired by your story. One donor said that hearing about your commitment to helping others after your own legal troubles showed him the importance of second chances. Your Work with us has helped feed over 500 people during your volunteer hours. But more importantly, your example has shown other people that it's possible to turn mistakes into opportunities for service. We hope you will continue volunteering with us for many years to come. Sincerely, the staff at Hope Soup Kitchen. David felt tears in his eyes as he read the letter. He had never expected that his community service would inspire other people to help those in need. That night, as David was getting ready for bed, he looked at himself in the bathroom mirror. The man looking back at him was healthier, happier, and more confident than the man who had been arrested 6 months ago. David thought about all the people who had helped him during his recovery. Officer Rivera, who had done his job with integrity. Judge Martinez, who had been fair but firm. His sister Patricia, who had forgiven him and supported his recovery.